Okay, great. All right. So, hi, my name's Dave Gurnell. I work for a company called Untyped, and we produce a product called Cartographer. This is not Cartographer. This is a sketch I drew earlier to show you what Cartographer does. It's a data collection platform and a reporting and data export platform. To give you a bit of history, it's been around for about 4 years now and was born out of work we were doing with Queen Mary University of London, building a web tool to help them record data for a thing called the Urban River Survey, which is a fairly complicated, fairly lengthy, in-depth survey of morphological and sort of environmental aspects on particular stretches of river. Particularly useful for monitoring rivers in urban environments where something like the River Habitat Survey doesn't work. Anyway, that's all by the way. From there, we were approached by Thames 21, who essentially said, we quite like the tools you've produced for the Urban River Survey. How can we get that stuff but with our data in it? So from there, we built this platform which is customizable to individual environmental groups' needs. So this is what it does. You get web forms, and from laptops and from mobile devices, you can pull data into a data processing platform. You can browse it online, search it, filter it, preview it on maps, and then get it out where you need it. So you can export stuff into Excel, get it into your GIS package, and you can even embed things like widgets directly on your Rivers Trust website so that the public can see the good work that you're doing. So we're now using Cartographer with 4 organisations, so Thames 21, Queen Mary University of London, the Environment Agency have us doing some surveys, and we're working with the Royal Parks Foundation monitoring wildlife in Regent's Park. So let me show you, no videos, let me show you the software. You can get the software at cartographer.io, and the way it works is we build you a custom version of this. So you get myriverstrust.cartographer.io as your website. So when you log in, I've just got a logged in version here. When you log in, you're greeted with a dashboard screen, which is similar to the other admin dashboards we've seen so far, which shows you all the data you've collected. So here's an example website. I've anonymized and pulled in a fraction of the data from Thames 21 here, just for the purposes of demonstration. So you can see here a list of water quality surveys that have been collected by various volunteers, all of whom I've anonymized down here at different times in different locations. And these are all water quality data points. But this organisation is actually collecting several types of data. So if I choose to add a survey, I can pull in invasives and litter data as well. So each of these items in this list, invasives, litter, water quality, is a survey type which is set up for that organisation. So let's have a look at the way you collect water quality data. Specifically for Thames 21 here. So they're recording what river we're on, who the surveyor is, when the data was collected. Users can upload photographs, and they can record all the usual stuff: temperature, pH, turbidity. Nitrate and phosphate aren't being collected in this particular area on this particular program, but there's the capacity to put that in if it matters. So a volunteer could log in to this website and see a slightly restricted version of the user interface where they can add in a water quality survey, fill all of this stuff in, and it's designed to be relatively easy to use. So they've got help on every field. The user interface will tell them if they've done silly things like try to enter a pH of 15. And certain things like GPS are made relatively easy to enter because you can use your GPS device, you can use a 10-digit national grid reference, or you can just click on this map to choose where you were when you were entering that data. So we've tried to make things as easy as possible for volunteers to use. What can we do with that data once we've got it in? Well, let me lose those changes and go back to the main menu. Well, first of all, I get a searchable list of surveys. So I can search for different river names, get the Ravensbourne up here. I can sort this list in different orders. And if I pull out this drop-down menu here, I can download the data in various formats, and I can download it in whatever order or whatever sort of searched state it is in on this screen. So for example, here's some water quality data with everything we've recorded there exported into Excel. I won't show that in too much detail because it's real data, and I'm aware that people might have written notes which make them personally identifiable on the right, and I'm not sure if I'm supposed to show that. So you get all the data out, you can get that into ArcMap, you can get it into Excel, and you can do all that stuff. Another pain point we try to address with this software is the pain point of dealing with lots of volunteers. So we're trying to give you QA tools, and in a similar thing to a previous bit of software that's shown, we have these little flags on every survey. A survey starts off as draft. When the volunteer is done with it, they mark it as complete. That generates an email to you, so you can log in and look at it and approve it, at which point it goes on to all of your publicly visible maps, should you wish to make them publicly visible. And it locks the record at that point, so the volunteer can't then change it. So we've got a simple QA process, very easy to understand. We also have a simple process of getting users on board. So if I go to the user admin screen, it's all different versions of me on this website, apart from one of my colleagues here. We can the way we find people like getting users into the software is to get them in training workshops. So with water quality, you might have an afternoon workshop, invite the volunteers in, show them the kit, show them how to measure pH and turbidity and so on. And in that workshop, you want to get them using the software and recording data right away. So we have this thing called a workshop sign up here. I click on that button and it gives me a 4-letter code which I can give to my volunteers. And I can then say what kinds of people I want them to be. So here I'm going to say I want them to be water quality surveyors. So I can customize exactly what data they're allowed to see, exactly what they're allowed to edit, and whether I want them to be administrators or whatever. And then I click this create code button, and on a projector in the training workshop, I can show some instructions to them. They get a URL they go to, they put that code in to prove that they're there in that workshop, and then it gives them a simple sign-up form, and they click OK, and they're immediately logged into the software. No emails, no things getting lost in spam filters or anything like that. It's instant. So we're sort of trying to provide tools to allow you to onboard people very quickly, allow you to help them get data in very easily, and to help you QA that data and get it out. To show you one last feature, obviously it's called Cartographer, and we need the obligatory maps that all of these tools have. So we have a sort of built-in map view here, and this is, again, some of the Thames 21 data. In addition to just showing the points on a map, we provide things like legends. We give you histograms of the distribution of, in this case, pH across the points you can see. You can drill down into a particular point to see where it fits in with the distribution, and you can go and look at that survey from here. We can also look at the other data points we're collecting. So here's temperature with some customized categories there. And I can show you quite a nice thing. If we really jump in close, we can actually click on a survey here. As you can see, it draws a line around where we've clicked the survey, and we get a timeline of all of the data points in that area. So basically, we're getting a timeline of how the temperature has changed at this location on the Thames, and we draw that little circle because people never put surveys in exactly the same points. It's always a slightly different GPS position or a slightly different grid reference. So there are some simple tools in there to let you browse the data online, but of course you're going to want to get that data out into an external package to do proper analysis on it, and you can do that as well. What you can also do is show the data to the public. So this is the Thames 21 website, and here is that same data, or at least just the data for the Thames, because we're dealing with their Thames River Watch project, visible online, and you can browse through the pH, the temperature, and other categories which they've chosen to show publicly. And you get a legend down there, and this is all live data coming straight from the website. Finally, just to show you that this is the idea behind the software here, it is customizable, and you can take it as far as you want to. So I'll show you the original survey form, which we were asked to put online. This is for the Urban River Survey, and this is actually on the live Urban River Survey website. And this page, this form, as you can see, these are pages in this form. There's lots of data. It's very, very in-depth. It's a scientific survey for use by trained members of staff as opposed to by volunteers. And we're helping them validate that data as much as possible. So we've got all these little numbers down here are warnings to say, hey, look, you haven't filled in this, 3 fields haven't been filled in yet on this page, or you might want to check these 2 fields because they don't quite tally up according to what we normally see in the data. And it will help you, it will walk you right the way through the whole process with diagrams and all sorts of online help, pictures. When you select different categories, you can see we're using buttons on screen rather than checkboxes, because the whole thing is designed to work on tablets and mobile phones as well. And by the time you get to the end and you've gotten rid of all these warnings and you've validated the data, you should have a good survey that's ready for QA by the organisation in question. So that gives you an overview of the software and what it does. Hang on, I don't want to go there. I want to go back to here and here. And I can give you an idea of costs. So we're currently looking at about £1,500 a year to support the software and all the data in it. This is a hosted solution. You don't have any other IT costs on top of that. And then there's an upfront charge of developing the surveys as well, which varies depending upon complexity. It's basically just development time. Now, what we're also working on is a set of standard surveys for things like water quality, litter, and invasive species, so that with those, there's no development cost. They're already there. You can just pick them up and use them immediately. We're also looking at bringing down the support costs, and that really depends upon getting enough people on board that the cost is shared across the partners. And finally, we take quite an active role in seeking funding. We'll help with the technical sides of grant proposals and so on to get money from funding bodies to support the software and to support further developments. So that's everything. I've gone through the whole thing, and I'm happy to take questions if anyone has them. Hello?
Hello, sorry, I was just speaking on mute then. Thanks very much, Dave. Does anybody have any questions?
Neil here. I've got just a quick question. It looks really good, Dave. Really impressed with that platform. Are these? Is it a web? It's a web app. Is it that you basically use in the browser to gather the data?
It's so it's 2 things. It's a web app, which is the sort of admin interface and also gives you an easy way of giving volunteers access to everything. But it's also a data platform. So we can bring data in from any source and send it out to any source as well. We have prototype mobile apps. We actually have an app that's very similar to Plant Tracker, which we were developing around the time Plant Tracker launched, and then decided not to take it any further. So that all that stuff is technically feasible. It's just a matter of building it, and we have the basic structures in place for all these things, which means we can build it fairly cost effectively. But yeah, that's a possibility.
Okay.
Any other questions?
To be clear, if you are in a privileged position where you can get into the field and have 3G access, all of this stuff works just fine on a phone. It's just that we don't, you need the mobile app to get the offline access for bad areas of bad connectivity.
Yeah.
One question about where the data's going for invasive species, because one thing that we've been very aware of right from the off is that there are quite a few different collection methods, if you like, for invasive species, and the community is really trying to make sure that that is centralized rather than dispersed. There are too many silos basically out there of data, so what's happening to the invasive species data that's being collected with your platform?
Absolutely, thoroughly agree. So the platform has another layer which I didn't talk about, which is effectively an abstraction layer. So we see demands from different organisations to collect this data, but they always have their own organisation-specific things. We'd like to add this extra field. We'd like to. You saw Thames 21 there have specific river codes for the different tributaries, and they want to identify sites, that kind of thing. So data comes in. It's organisation-specific. It then goes through a separate layer, a separate processing layer to produce this what we call the map data or the exports, and that's all. The idea is to be able to abstract that so it is a standard across all organisations. So that partly answers your question. The other part is that where it goes to is up to the individual partners. So Thames 21, for example, are very happy with publicising their data and sending it out to standard repositories. We have other customers who want to keep certain data private for reasons of just controlling when it gets released and who gets to see what. So it is absolutely up to the people commissioning the software.
Okay.
Any other questions for Dave? Okie dokie. Well, thank you very much indeed, Dave. That's great.